You're not being polite. You're being tested. You're passing a compliance scan. And the worst part is, you don't even realize it's happening. Because manipulators don't start with control. They start small. A comment, a favor, a moment that feels slightly off. And if you ignore it, that's when the training begins. Most people think emotional manipulation starts with something obvious. A betrayal, a lie, a blow-up. It doesn't. It starts quietly, so quietly. You mistake it for normal behavior. There's a name for this. It's called social grooming. And it's not about breaking you. It's about adjusting you. That is the scan. They are checking how much discomfort you will absorb before you correct them. The first sign is something called forced teaming. This is when someone creates a sense of we before it's earned. You'll hear it in small phrases. We understand each other. We're not like other people. We see things differently. At first, it feels like connection, like you found someone who gets you. But that's not what's happening. They're skipping the process of building trust and jumping straight to claiming it. And once that happens, you're no longer just an individual. You're part of something. And that changes how you respond. Because now disagreeing feels like betrayal. Setting a boundary feels like conflict. And walking away feels like abandoning something that never really existed. That's not connection. That's positioning. And this is where most people lose control. But they don't realize it yet. The second sign is the small boundary test. This is where the real scan happens. Not through big actions, but through small violations. They interrupt you. They dismiss something you say. They make a joke at your expense. Nothing extreme, nothing obvious. Just enough to create a moment of discomfort. And then they wait. They watch what you do next. Do you correct it? Do you call it out? Or do you smooth it over to keep things comfortable? Because if you choose comfort, they've just learned something about you. They've learned that your boundaries are negotiable. And once that signal is clear, they don't need to guess anymore. They just escalate. Slightly. Then slightly again. And every time you let it go, you're teaching them how far they can push. But more importantly, you're teaching yourself what you're willing to tolerate. And that's where the shift starts. The third sign looks like trust, but it isn't. It's strategic vulnerability. This is when someone shares something deep. Too early. A personal story. A past trauma, something emotional. And it feels real. It feels honest. It feels like they're opening up to you. But what it actually does is create pressure. Because now you feel the need to respond. To match that level of openness. To prove that you trust them too. And that's the moment they're waiting for. Because what you share next is real. Your fears, your past, your insecurities. Things you wouldn't normally reveal, and now they have it. Not as connection, but as leverage. Because later, when you try to pull away, when you try to set boundaries, that information becomes useful. Not for understanding you, but for controlling you. And by the time you realize it, it's already too late to take it back. The fourth sign is isolation. But it doesn't look like isolation at first. It looks like perspective. They don't say your friend is bad. They say your friend is jealous of you. Now, they haven't attacked your support system. They've made you suspicious of it. They just start reframing them. Your friends become negative. Your family becomes limiting. Other people don't understand you. And they position themselves differently. As the one who gets you. the one who sees your potential, the one who actually understands who you are. And slowly, you start to believe it. You start to rely on their perspective more than your own. You start to filter your decisions through them. And over time, your world gets smaller, not because they forced you, but because they reshaped how you see everything. And once that happens, they don't need control anymore, because they've become your reference point. And when someone controls your reference point, they control your reality. The fifth sign is the most deceptive, because it feels like help. This is the loaned power dynamic. They solve problems for you. They give you opportunities. They do things that seem generous, and at first, it feels like support, like they're helping you grow. But every action comes with a hidden cost, because nothing they give you is free. Every favor builds weight. Every advantage creates imbalance. And eventually, that imbalance becomes leverage, because when you try to say no, when you try to step back, when you try to take control again, they remind you of everything they've done. And now, you don't feel free to choose. You feel obligated to comply. And that's the final stage. Not control through force. Control through debt. And this is where everything changes. Because at some point, you stop reacting, you start adjusting. Before anything even happens, you choose your words more carefully. You avoid certain topics. You stay quiet when something feels off. Not because you have to, but because it's easier. And that's when control is complete. Not when someone dominates you, but when you start managing yourself. That's what obedience actually looks like. Not submission. And once you reach that point, they don't need to do anything anymore. Because now, you're doing it for them. The most dangerous part of manipulation isn't the control, it's the process. Because if someone tries to force you, you resist. But if they train you, you participate. You adjust, you comply, and you don't even see it happening. Until one day, you look back and realize you're not reacting anymore. You're maintaining, you're managing, you're staying within limits you didn't choose. And by the time you see it clearly, it already feels normal. But here's the shift. The moment you recognize the pattern, it breaks. Because manipulation depends on unconscious behavior. The second you see it, you interrupt it. And the simplest way to do that is to stop over-explaining. Stop justifying your boundaries. Stop trying to make everything comfortable. Because manipulators rely on your need to explain yourself. It gives them something to work with, something to reshape, something to negotiate. But when you remove that, they lose access. And without access, there is no control. You don't need to fight it. You don't need to confront it. You just need to stop participating in it. Because the moment you stop adjusting, the training stops working. And when the training stops working, the entire dynamic collapses.